The time and date for the town meeting having arrived and a quorum being present, I hereby declare this special town meeting in session. A couple of housekeeping announcements. If you are not a voter for the town of Hanson, could you please sit in the visitor section over here? It's clearly marked. Thank you very much. And if you could all please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As is our custom, and first off, as of several minutes ago, we had 151 people present, so that does constitute a quorum. I would remind you that people are still checking in, and that number may change. As is our custom, we like to remember those members of the town who have contributed to in great ways to our town that we've lost since the last town meeting. At this meeting, we'd like to remember Edmund Callahan and Robert Hobart. If we could just have a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. The rules for tonight's town meeting can be found in Town Meeting Time, which is put out by the Massachusetts Moderators Association, and we're lucky enough, our town council, Jay Tallerman, was one of the revisers of Town Meeting Time, so I am deferring to him on everything. The balances for town meeting that we have at our disposal tonight is as follows. To begin town meeting, I see. One moment. Okay, great. So in the Camp Kewanee retained earnings account, we have $148,921. In free cash, we have $3,064,123. In stabilization, we have $1,724,878.62. In the ambulance fund, we have $902,701.04. And under our remaining levy capacity, we have $380,000. Yeah, oh, yes. $560,000. And I just want to point out to everyone the fine form Mr. O'Sullivan just showed. When you come to the microphone, which he should have done, but I didn't stand on that. Yeah, oh, that's right, he's injured. If you're injured, we will bring the microphone to you so everybody can hear. But even if you think I should know you, please state your name and where you live. Thank you very much. Article 1, I move the town vote to transfer $16,180.11 from free cash to pay unpaid bills from prior fiscal years as printed in the special town meeting informational warrant. Seconded. I'm about to. That's a great point. Let me interrupt Article 1. Which has already been moved and seconded. But I would also make another motion. Sometimes, like this very article, the the law requires that 9/10 of the town meeting vote in favor of it in order to pass. So what we traditionally do is I make a motion to allow the moderator to determine the quantum of the vote. So if it requires 9/10 and I hear one lonely voice saying no, I can declare it 9/10. If anybody disagrees with my assessment, we can move to a counted vote. That is not a problem. Just say point of order and ask for a vote. Okay? So Article 1 being moved and seconded. The explanation, these. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm way too anxious to get Article 1 done. So I move that we allow the moderator to make a determination as to the quantum of the vote. Is there a second? Second. Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Article 1 moved and seconded. It requires a 9/10 majority vote. Yes, sir. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Moderator, what would the free cash balance be after this town meeting if all these articles pass?
The free cash balance, if everything passes tonight, we will spend $1,101,886.95, leaving us with a balance of $1,962,236.05. We also plan to spend $14,100 out of the ambulance fund and $150.61 out of the Camp Kewanee retained earnings. So any questions or comments on Article 1? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 1 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it by the required 9/10 majority vote. Article 2. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $131,000 for the purpose of funding the collective bargaining agreement with the Hanson Police Relief Association for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. Seconded, the Hanson Police Relief Association has ratified the fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 29 collective bargaining agreement. The purpose of this article is to fund these increases this fiscal year. Any questions or comments? Oh, Mr. Young.
Bruce R. Young, 594 Indian Head Street. I don't have any problem with this, with the dollar amount. I just like, and I want this question to apply to the next couple articles as well. What was the percentage increase that this represents for the first year? What were the percentages for second and third year?
I'm told by our accountants 2% this year and 2% in the following years. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 2 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 2 is adopted. Article 3. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $112,731 for the purpose of funding the collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2713, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. Seconded, the Firefighters Association has ratified the fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 29 collective bargaining agreement. The purpose of this article is to fund these increases this year. And I'm told it's the same percentage, 2%. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 3 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 3 is adopted. Article 4. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,000 for the purpose of funding the collective bargaining agreement with the Hanson Highway employees AFSCME, Council 93, Local 1700 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. Seconded, the Highway Union has ratified the fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 29 collective bargaining agreement. The purpose of this article is to fund these increases in this fiscal year. Again, 2% increase. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 4 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 4 is adopted. Article 5, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,300 for the purpose of funding the collective bargaining agreement with the administrative professionals employees, AFSCME, Council 93, Local 1700, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. Seconded, the administrative professionals Local 1700 has ratified the fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 29 collective bargaining agreement. The purpose of this article is to fund these increases in this fiscal year. Once again, a 2% increase. Any other questions or concerns? Oh, could you please come to the microphone and just introduce yourself?
How you doing? My name's Charles Hyatt. I want to know who's getting the raises.
The town administrator.
All of the union unit members will all get the increase.
And there's a raise for you, 21,000? That's ridiculous.
We haven't gotten to that article.
Ms. Green's increase is in another article. This does not apply to her.
Well, she's in the administration, right?
She's not a member of the union.
Oh, okay. I'll be up next.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 5 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 5 is adopted. Article 6, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $56,087 for the purpose of funding wage expenses for non-union personnel and contractual obligations for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. Seconded. I'm about to read the explanation, but if you'd like to make your way down, please do. The purpose of this article is to fund wage expenses for non-union personnel and contractual obligations, which includes the Veteran Service Officer, the Town Administrator Select Board Office, Animal Control, IT Director, Treasurer Collector, and Planning Office for this fiscal year. The breakdown of these wage expenses are printed in the informational warrant. Ms. Green, would you like to speak to them? Do you have a question, sir?
Yeah. So why is she getting a $21,000 raise?
Oh, wait a minute. You have to introduce yourself again.
Donald Trump?
No. Now, I've promised in the past that if anybody uses a fake name, you won't be recognized. Could I have your name and address, please?
Charles Hyatt,
And your address?
615 State Street.
And what is your question?
Why is she getting a raise?
The board conducted a competitive analysis of current town administrator, town manager wages in towns similarly situated. Hanson is actually one of the lowest paid.
Yeah, but you got a raise last year. You know, the town's going broke and you're getting a raise? I don't understand it.
All right.
How about giving me a raise?
Wait until I've recognized you. Ms. Kemet.
Yeah, the board voted to recommend this, and I think you'll notice that the Finance Committee did too. So this is like let heaven and nature sing tonight, that both boards are actually in agreement. And the reason that we're in agreement is because it's an incredibly competitive atmosphere out there now for town administrators. The majority of the town administrators with any tenure have retired, and everybody is poaching everybody else's town administrators. And if we were to have somebody come in the door, if Ms. Green were to leave, we'd be paying more than what we're suggesting this evening. So we did quite a bit of due diligence, and we feel comfortable with this number. We do realize that it is a bit shocking on paper, but it is what the market's bringing.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 6 signify by saying aye. Oh, pardon me, did you have something to say? Do you want to come to the microphone?
Dave Bovee, 149 Home Street. And I just want to call attention to the veterans line here, where the veteran service agent hours would increase from 20 to 30. There are more than 500 veterans in this town. And I've personally had interaction with the veterans agent, and he simply needs the increase in hours. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 6 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 6 is adopted. Article 7. I move the town vote to transfer $50,000 from free cash to supplement the construction costs of the Pratt Place culvert replacement construction. Seconded. The town, explanation, the town received $727,813 in ARPA funds towards the cost of the replacement construction. This amount supplements the additional cost of the construction. Oh, quite all right. You can be recognized anytime. Any questions or concerns on Article 7? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 7 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 7 is adopted. Article 8. I move the town vote to transfer $3,500 from free cash for the purpose of funding the advertising budget. Seconded. These funds will be used to cover the cost of advertising of legal notices, vacancy postings, and other required advertising requirements. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 8 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 8 is adopted. Article 9. I move the town vote to transfer $40,000 from water enterprise receipts for a new security camera system to be placed at the town's Crystal Spring Wellfield site and at the water department office located at 1073 West Washington Street. Seconded, the water department needs to replace outdated systems as some cameras are not operating properly. I don't know if we need to tell people. Commissioners feel it is imperative to have the security camera at both locations. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 9 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 9 is adopted. Article 10. I move the town vote to transfer $120,000 from water enterprise receipts to fund the purchase and installation of an emergency generator for the deep well at Crystal Springs Wellfield, including all costs incidental and related thereto. Seconded, the purchase of a generator for the deep well will provide reliable standby power in case of power outages. Any questions or concerns? I keep getting distracted by that beautiful child. No, wonderful to have. Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 10 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 10 is adopted. Article 11, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $4,500 for the purpose of funding the town-wide postage account. Seconded, these funds will be used to cover the postage rate increase. Any questions or concerns? Mr. Young?
Yeah, just a question for the Finance Committee. Remember last year, we got a pretty good lecture on why we shouldn't be using free cash to fund any town expenses. So I'm wondering, because it's one-time funds, I'm wondering why they're in favor of a lot of these articles requiring free cash to involve town expenses.
Mr. Sullivan? Here, you can come up here.
We took a serious look at all the requests presented. As you can see, a lot of them were financial requests, negotiated contracts from the different departments. Many of the other ones are increases year over year. The postage one is one that was up. It will have to be factored in next year's budget. We were specifically tight with free cash in the spring so that we'd have it to fund some of these things that we knew were coming in the fall. And so we're still leaving ourselves with a healthy amount of free cash going into the next fiscal year. So we fund when we can, we hold when we need. All set, Bruce?
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 11 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 11 is adopted. Article 12, I move the town vote to transfer $50,000 from free cash to supplement the fiscal year 26 Regional Public Safety Communications Assessment. Seconded, this transfer will ensure full funding of the town's fiscal year 26 assessment for regional public safety communication services. The requested funds will be used to meet the town's obligation to the Regional Old Colony Communications Center. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 12 is adopted. Article 13, I move the town vote to transfer $146,097.45 from free cash for the purchase of 2 new police cruisers. Seconded, purchasing and maintaining the long-established cruiser program for the Hanson Police Department is beneficial for many reasons. Officer safety, providing reliable transportation for day-to-day police patrol and emergency responses, being equipped with the latest technology and safety features. Maintaining this program of purchasing new cruisers each year will lower long-term costs by having the vehicles under warranty and reducing costly repairs. This proactive approach ensures that the police force operates effectively and maintains a high level of public safety. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 13 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 13 is adopted. Article 14, I move the town vote to transfer $125,000 from free cash to purchase technology equipment to enhance the cybersecurity and network design of the town of Hanson technology infrastructure. Seconded. This is a very long explanation, so are people good with me not reading it? Okay. Yes, sir.
Frank Lacy, 604 Brook Street. So I had a question about that. I don't know if the IT director's here on site or not. So the last part of this where it says redesign consolidation of Active Directory unified, and the town departments into a single sort of more secure domain. Is this $125,000 going to that effort as well? Because if I'm not mistaken, the IT director has a salary line item unless there's a particular third-party project or consultant that's going to be brought on for that. I guess the main question is this just for the hardware that you're doing, or is this also including the last part of the Active Directory redesign?
Could you just say your question again? I couldn't hear you.
So
It's
is-
Matt Taccio, IT Director.
So the $125,000, is that specifically just to purchase the hardware that you're planning on doing here? Is that
No,
also-
there's
Hold on,
about,
Mr. Taccia. I recognize Mr. Taccia.
oh, thank you. No, there's 3 weeks of time built in with myself and a consultant to be able to do this. Though, because I am a team of one in the Hanson IT department. So there is hardware and labor involved.
Okay, can you tell me the breakdown between the hardware and the logical design?
Basically, just ballpark. It's about 25,000 in labor,
25,000.
100,000 in hardware.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 14 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 14 is adopted. Article 15, I move the town vote to transfer $68,000 from free cash to purchase Microsoft 365. Second, the expense covers town-wide implementation, including the purchase of licenses, professional services for migration and setup, data backup, cybersecurity integration, staff training, and all related costs and expenses necessary to modernize the town's email, productivity, and collaboration systems. Any questions or concerns? Mr. Malisi.
Frank Malisi, 604 Brook Street. Did we ever get into the point where the union negotiation with the two-factor authentication for our IT systems? Because a lot of this work for security upgrades on 365 is kind of mute point if you don't have two-factor authentications on emails and chats and things like that. I know that was a big discussion item probably last year with the unions.
Mr. Taccio.
Matt Taccio, IT Director. I can't speak to the union issue, but I can tell you what I'm going to do to implement this is that we're going to be able to, through MFA, whether it's a hard token or dialing a phone number of a landline, neglects the issue of using a personal cell phone and have an app on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 15 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 15 is adopted. Article 16, and I believe we have a presentation for this article by the library. It's going to be very short, but informational. So Article 16, I move the town vote to transfer $21,000 from free cash to restore funds cut from the library's budget at the May 2025 town meeting, as well as restore staffing hours and operating hours lost from cuts in 2010. Seconded, explanation, the library budget was cut $16,000 at the May 2025 annual town meeting and is still short 10 staffing hours and 2 operating hours from cuts in 2010. This article would allow the library to gain back staff hours to avoid unexpected closures and restore the 2 lost operating hours to stay open until 5 p.m. on Wednesday. So we'll have a short presentation. Is Karen going to give it? Okay. So be careful, the screen's coming.
Why don't you come down there?
Either place, but you won't be able to see the screen if you're here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, hi, I'm Karen Stolfer, the library director. We have a brief presentation tonight about the grant that we received to do planning and design work. I'm going to turn it over to Matthew Odens. He's from Odens Ello Architecture, which is a firm that we hired to assist us with this project. Yeah.
Thanks very much. I'm Matt Odens with Odens Ello Architecture in Boston. Might be good if you turn the lights out. Thanks, everybody, for being patient in this intermission from your regularly scheduled program. Our firm, Odenzello Architecture, was hired back in August to help the town satisfy a planning and design grant, which the state awarded to the town to look at the design for renovation and expansion of a new library. This effort that we're working on currently is building on two previous exercises. One was a library building program, and the other was a facility conditions assessment, both completed last year. Next slide. The library building program, which was completed by an outside consultant, identified a need of 22,000 square feet total. The existing building is 11,000 square feet, 3,000 of which is senior center, 8,000 is library. So that's a 14,000 square foot addition. We started by reviewing the program, making some fine-tuned edits. Next slide. And then looking at the site. I apologize, these are hard to read. It's very dim, but next slide. You are probably all familiar with the existing library at the corner of McQuan and School Streets with the former school property behind it. The library is currently completely surrounded by, completely surrounded by vehicular circulation. As I said, it's about 8,000 square feet of library space. Next. Based on the assessment that we did last year, we wanted to try to correct some of the challenges with the library. There are performance issues with building envelope and building systems, but there are also challenges with the way that one uses the library that we think an expansion can and should address. The difficult wayfinding to the entry, the lack of any connection of the building to its surroundings. Next. We are focusing on the area directly behind the building, which is town-owned property. Again, this is a renovation expansion rather than a new building. This was determined to be the most cost-effective way forward. Next. 14,000 square foot addition, as I mentioned before. And we feel strongly that this not just be attached directly to the side of the building. There needs to be some breathing room between the new program space and the existing space, potentially shaping green space that can be used for outdoor programming. Next. And then a question about how you relate those two things, this new square footage and the existing building. Next. So we began by looking at a series of site diagrams where the darker orange color represents new library building program. The lighter orange color is the existing building. So these were different ways that we could expand parking, create a new entrance at the corner in a couple of these of McQuan and School Street. Some explore keeping the entrance in its current location, and then deploying the program in different ways to start to shape outdoor space and accommodate the building program. Next. Since those diagrams, we've been working on building planning. So we're now taking that program document that you saw and we're fitting it into the different site diagrams. We've gone through a couple of iterations, and these are some examples of the first planning exercises that we did. I know you can't read the text, so I apologize, but quickly, the code is gray is adults, red is children, light green is teens, orange is community space. And so in each of these diagrams, we're looking at different ways of accommodating that program. As I said, we're looking at the possibility of a new entry at the corner of McQuan and School Street, which will be much more visible and more easily accessible from an expanded parking lot. Next. And then most recently, we've started to hybridize some of those components, and the scheme on the right is where we are currently headed. We've been working with the Library Building Committee and with the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, who administers the MPLCP grant, to get their input and comment, and that has sort of led us to this point, what we're calling the hybrid option, and that's where we are now. We're about a third of the way, maybe 30% of the way through this planning study. We plan to submit at the end of December. And then subject to successful review by the state, the grant, Hanson is in the first round of funding. So if the town decided to move ahead with the project, at town meeting in the spring, they would enter into a contract in June with the state and would be awarded somewhere in the range of 40 to 50% of the total eligible project costs. So thank you very much.
Ms. Santalucia, are you going to speak on the article or the grant?
Yeah, I was just going to provide a little context because I think that was a little strange transition. Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
So, hi everyone. Teresa Santa Lucia, 517 West Washington Street. So the article is about, hours, and we need to vote on that. This was just a presentation. They kind of got interspersed, so I thought it was probably a little confusing. So I wanted to just state that this was just a demonstration of the work that the building committee and the library trustees have been working on for the past 8 years. These grants come up about every 5 years, and we're in the running for a potential grant from the state for a rehabilitation of the library. And so we've been working over the last couple of years with architects and project managers to put together a proposal that would come before this town in the spring, assuming that we are eligible for state grants due to the vote later in this meeting. But so there were two things happening. One, the article that I think you'll call a vote for, which is really just about hours and restoring our hours at the library. And then this presentation was just to preview some of the work we've been doing about expanding and renovating the library pursuant to a grant that we're eligible for at the state level. So I just wanted to explain that for everyone.
Any other questions or concerns on Article 16? Can you come to the microphone, sir?
Just a quick question. Mike.
Your name again, please.
Okay. Wait a minute, sorry. Charles Hyatt, 615 State Street. Are they going to have a senior center in there too, in the library? Because we definitely need a senior center.
All right. If we could, got to keep it to the article, but yes, please.
Corinne Cavato, Chair Trustee of the Library. The senior center is already in place. They just add an additional building.
You're gonna make it bigger, or no?
The senior center is making itself bigger on their own. We're two separate entities.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Just want to make sure you're not getting rid of them.
Ms.
Because
Dalton.
they're awesome.
Yeah, I just want to add to that our grant only covers the library. It's not allowed to cover any senior center portion of any renovation. So right now we're assuming that the senior center is going to stay as is. That's how we're working through our project. So,
Any other questions or concerns? Mr. Malisi.
I'd like to make an amendment to change this total to $31,000 instead of $21,000. Every year, the library is one of the first programs in town that gets cut. I know my kids go there. I know a lot of the kids from the Indian Head schools go there after school during football when their siblings are at sports. And they do a great job in the limited resources that they have. Like I said, I just think it's a little unfair that every year they're essentially the first ones to get cut. So if we have the free cash, we're going to spend $150,000 on IT equipment and skid steers and stuff like that. I think it's more than reasonable to give them $30,000 so they can purchase some one-time stuff from the library.
Can you put your amendment in writing, please?
Oh, I don't know how to write for them.
Any questions or comments on Mr. Malisi's amendment? It's been seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the amendment to increase the number from $21,000 to $31,000 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment passes. All those in favor of Article 16 as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 16 is adopted as amended. Article 17, I move the town vote to transfer $40,000 from free cash to pay for safety repairs on fences on all athletic fields. Seconded, Hanson Parks and Fields is requesting a sum of $40,000 for much needed safety repairs to fencing in and around athletic fields. This includes batting cages that are currently vending and allowing baseballs and softballs to escape the cages that could result in injury to the players and spectators. I don't think that's the baseball's fault, but this money will also be used to fix numerous pieces of fence that are broken, as well as to add fencing in certain areas to ensure safety on all 9 fields in Hanson. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 17 signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Went a little too quick.
I just want to know, I live over in Mount Hudson.
Oh,
I'm
could you introduce yourself?
Erin O'Donnell, 207 Waltham Street. Would any of that money go to the fields over in the Monpont neighborhood?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
We have someone with an answer.
You're the
If you
answer.
could introduce yourself. please.
Adam Velkovic, 372 Home Street, also the chair of Parks and Fields. We currently are reworking through a grant that street, already that park. We've originally resurfaced the basketball court. I don't know if you noticed recently. Redid the hoops, relined it, and then the resultant money in the spring, hopefully at next town meeting, we'll end up putting a jungle gym and things like that. But this article is just for fencing that needs to be done on the fields where kids play. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 17 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 17 is adopted. Article 18, I move the town vote to transfer $149,000 from free cash for the purchase of a rubber-wheeled excavator. Seconded, this piece of equipment takes the place of a conventional tracked excavator. The use of this equipment will immediately ease roadside and subsurface work for the department, making the department more self-sufficient and sustainable. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 18 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 18 is adopted. Article 19, I move the town vote to transfer $78,000 from free cash for the purchase of a skid steer loader. Seconded, this is a small wheeled machine that takes the place of a larger piece of equipment in small working areas and roadways. This versatile machine has the ability of being fitted with multiple attachments, making the skid steer capable of multiple work applications, including snow and ice operations. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 19 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 19 is adopted. Article 20, I move the town vote to transfer $7,500 from the ambulance account for the purchase of 2 new stair chairs for the Hanson Fire Department. Seconded, these funds are requested to replace the stair chairs that are utilized to extricate patients from their home. The new chairs are lighter and more ergonomically built than the current chairs, which are 10 years old. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 20 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 20 is adopted. Article 21, I move the town vote to transfer $6,600 from the ambulance account for the purchase of 2 new video laryngoscopes for the Hanson Fire Department. Second, pardon me? Oh, thank you. It's been seconded, but I was complaining at the selectmen's meeting that I just learned how to say phragmites or phragmites, and now I have to say laryngoscope. Explanation, these funds are requested to purchase 2 video laryngoscopes for use during intubation for life-threatening emergencies. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 21 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 21 is adopted. Article 22, I move the town vote to transfer $15,000 from free cash for the cost share of a federal radio equipment grant totaling over $200,000 for the Hanson Fire Department. Seconded, these funds are requested to replace mobile and portable radios at the Hanson Fire Department. This is being done through a competitive grant process. The town share is 5%. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 22 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 22 is adopted. Article 23, I move the town vote to transfer $45,360 from free cash to purchase and install an awning to be placed between the senior center and the supportive day program building. Seconded, these funds will be utilized to purchase and install an awning which will give protection from the weather to those entering the supportive day program from the adjacent senior center building. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 23 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 23 is adopted. Article 24, I move the town vote to transfer $2,000 from free cash to cover the increased cost of legal notice advertising for the Board of Health. Seconded, this article was proposed by the Board of Health. The article supplements the increased cost of advertising required for public hearings and legal notices. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 24 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 24 is adopted. Article 25, I move the town vote to rescind and replace the May 5, 2025 annual town meeting budget vote to operate Camp Kewaunee during fiscal year 2026 under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, as printed in the informational warrant. Seconded, this is a level funded budget. The budget is comprised of anticipated revenues, program receipts, and a transfer of $31,000 from Camp Kewaunee's retained earnings. This budget represents what is necessary to run and operate Camp Kewaunee and Cranberry Cove for fiscal year 2026. Any questions or concern? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 25 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 25 is adopted. Article 26, I move the town vote to amend the Hanson General Bylaws, Article 3-21, Sections 1 through 11, Stormwater Management, as printed in the informational warrant. Seconded. The town is amending Article 3-21 to conform to current municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4, regulations. The regulations are necessary for the protection of Hanson's water bodies and groundwater and to safeguard public health, safety, welfare, and environment from contaminated stormwater runoff associated with developed land uses and the accompanying increase in impervious surface areas. Any questions or concerns? Mr. O'Sullivan?
Yes, Joe O'Sullivan, 625 West Washington Street. I have several questions. A lot of them come from the new development on County Road, Zero County Road. First of all, does this require 2/3 vote because it's a bylaw change?
I'm told by town council, no. Only, I might say, only certain bylaw changes require a 2/3 vote.
Okay. Authorized enforcement agency, the planning board, hereinafter the board, its agents are designated to enforce the system. Further along, it says if someone disagrees with the planning board's rejection of a section, then they can go to court, if a court of appropriate jurisdiction. My question is, 2 years ago, the members of the Conservation Committee were sued as individuals for denying a permit to this Zero County Road. My question is, who pays the legal fees for town employees that are taken to court by a contractor who doesn't like it?
Mr. Tallerman.
If the board members are sued for the stuff they do as board members, and they're not sued, for example, for a purposeful like civil rights violation, but if they're sued for the action they take under this bylaw, or in the case of wetlands under the Wetland Protection Act or a local wetland bylaw, then the town covers them for that. It's only when they take an action that's outside the scope of their duties, like a civil rights violation or something else like that, where it could be subject to question. But the town has adopted the necessary statutes to cover the legal.
So basically, they're indemnified for the decisions that they make.
Everything they do acting in their capacity as board members is covered, and they're indemnified for that.
Thank you very much. I have just a couple of other little ones.
Mr. O'Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. A plan setting up the functional financial, this is on page 20, down the bottom, operation and maintenance plan. Plan setting up functional, financial, and organizational mechanisms for ongoing operation and maintenance of a stormwater management system to ensure that it continues function and design. The Zero County Road project actually has new high-tech drains that separate oil dripping off of cars, et cetera, from regular groundwater before it is dispersed into the runoff system. However, it needs to be checked every year, and it needs to be serviced 5-10 years down the road. The bottom line is the company who is putting in the subdivision has agreed to maintain it for 5 years. And their response was, after that, it's the homeowners association's responsibility. I suspect since nobody's required to have a homeowner association in this town, the town will either wind up abandoning it or having to pay the money to check it and empty it when needed. The second one.
So that could be a tricky question. Again, Jay Tallerman, Town Council. So generally speaking, when we issue permits like this, we will ask to see the homeowners association documents to make sure that there's a mechanism by which they could keep the reserve fund so as to pay operation and maintenance in an ongoing fashion. However, if the town ends up accepting a roadway, so in a case of a subdivision, that would be the case often, then it's possible that the town would be undertaking maintenance going forward on any drainage structures that are part of that roadway infrastructure system. So it really depends what happens. Sometimes the town does not take over the roadway for a variety of reasons, in which case we would build into the planning board's decision or whoever's decision the mechanisms so that we can ensure that the developer, and then when they give way to the homeowners, are going to continue to maintain that. We usually make sure those are part of the decisions.
Okay, the decision to permit this development has already been made. There is a small, and I admit it's a very small amount to maintain this stuff. And it's 2 roads, not just one in this subdivision. Okay. See if I can. Okay. Advertise. I'm on page 25, 4B, administration. Stormwater Authority has public hearings. The hearing shall be duly advertised in a paper of general circulation in the town of Hanson, no less than 14 days prior to the date of the public hearing. What paper is that?
Ms. Kemet.
As you know, we no longer have the Whitman Hanson Express. It would be either the Patriot Ledger or the Enterprise. That's why a couple of the articles that we voted on tonight were to increase those line items, because we were paying $100 a pop for Whitman Hanson Express, and it's $300 a pop for the Ledger or the Express, the Ledger or the Enterprise.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the microphone.
Hi, Gail Joyce, 276 Lakeside. Concerning the last questions presented to you, I'm questioning about private roads with this waste management. Are they going to be included in the water waste management? Because they are private roads and they are privately owned, and the town didn't, come forward to support the closing of a private road that should have remained open, and it came to the neighborhood that had to come together to pay for an attorney to have it reopened, and it took 3 years and over $15,000 out of the pocket of the neighborhoods. So how is this going to be presented for waste management, protecting us as citizens and pay taxes on private roads as well as on public roads?
Mr. Talbot, so this bylaw applies prospectively to new alterations that require review of stormwater management. This does not operate backwards to require the installation and permitting for infrastructure for older roads. If there are alterations on a roadway proposed that triggered the requirements of this, and that might depend, then it could trigger a requirement for you. But this has nothing to do with the closure of private roads. This
No,
has,
I'm not talking about
right, well,
that.
but the bylaw is about the installation of stormwater management.
Are they going to be installed on private roads?
They could be if there's
Right,
work
because
to
that-
be, if there's work to be done on the private road. But it's this bylaw does not operate to require that. It only would trigger such requirements if people want to do additional work on those private roads that require review of stormwater management.
But we have a lot of storm water running into our properties. And they talked about at one time, there was a section of the property close to me that is town owned as putting in one of those waste management.
That's not what this is doing. It to the extent that the town has property and there are existing stormwater issues on properties, that's not this bylaw. If there's going to be new work and new systems installed, it's possible this bylaw will be triggered. But this bylaw doesn't operate to fix. There are other remedies for fixing existing flooding issues, but that's not what this bylaw does. It operates prospectively for new projects.
For new projects only,
Generally speaking, yes.
generally speaking. Thank you.
He had to say that. He's a lawyer. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 26 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 26 is adopted. Article 27. I move the town vote to amend Article 3-22 of the general bylaws of the town of Hanson to include the following regulations regarding discharges to the municipal storm drain system as printed in the informational warrant. Seconded, the town is amending Article 3-22 to conform to current municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 regulations. The article provides for regulation of illicit connections and discharges to the municipal storm drain system and are necessary for the protection of the town of Hanson's water bodies and groundwater. The regulations safeguard public health, safety, welfare, and the environment. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 27 signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 27 is adopted. Article 28. I move the town vote to amend the Town of Hanson zoning map to include an MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District, MCMOD. The MCMOD consists of the following parcels: 49-0-12, 50-0-101, 42-0-19K, 43-0-1, 42-0-17, 42-0-19J, 42-0-18, 42-0-56, 42-0-11, 43-0-29, 43-0-30, as shown in the informational warrant and on file with the town clerk's office, and to amend the Town of Hanson Land Use Regulations zoning bylaw by adding section 6O, MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District, MCMOD, to meet the requirements of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3A, as printed in the informational warrant. Seconded. The town of Hanson is a commuter rail community and as such must create one district of reasonable size in which multifamily housing is permitted as a right in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3A. The proposed district and zoning bylaws meet the requirements issued by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, formerly the DHCD. And before we take any comments, Ms. Kemet and several other people have a presentation to for the town meeting.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Campbell. I am the current chair of the planning board for the town of Hanson. I've been on the planning board for just about 10 years now. And some of the things that you're going to hear tonight with the presentation for the folks that are going to speak that are going to be coming up behind me, you're going to hear from the select board. You'll hear from the planner's office itself. You'll even hear from town council. What we're going to discuss tonight is all of the things that we've seen out on social media, such as why are we back at this again? Where does this come from? What are the detriments for passing or holding? What you won't hear tonight, I'm going to say this once more, please. What you won't hear tonight is a single person, to my knowledge, of any elected board or any town official that is for this proposal. You absolutely will not hear anybody from the planning board. You'll not hear anybody from the select board. You'll not hear anybody from any other offices in town that are for this. Reason why we're here and why we are here tonight discussing this again is that the town of Hanson is in a very, very tough spot. That is legitimate. I can attest to that from a meeting that I attended with representatives from the Attorney General's office. What you're going to hear tonight is not fodder, it is fact. We've had 2.5 years that we have been dealing with this. Some of the people sitting in this room have come to the last town meeting where we dealt with this the first go around. We have members from the, bless you, we have members from the planning board. We have members from the planning board in the past. We have members from the Conservation Commission. We have so many folks that are here, CBA, that are educated on what's being presented tonight, that I honestly ask every single person here that if you have any question about an acronym or a statement or a sentence that is used, and you don't understand it, please ask for a recess or a break so that you can get a definition, come to the microphone so you can be recognized to get a definition of just exactly what was stated that you may not understand. There are a lot of acronyms, as you saw in the last articles in the warrants. There's a lot of acronyms that are used. I want to make sure that everybody here, just as we have done with the 3 public hearings that we've just recently had, the public hearing that we had a year ago at Camp Kawani, as well as the public hearings at the planning board. If there's any opportunity where you may not know something, please don't hesitate to ask. We certainly don't want anybody to leave the room thinking that they weren't fully understanding of definitions of things and where things came about. But I will reiterate, you're not going to hear anybody from the planning board or the select board saying that they're in favor of this. It's just the opposite. We strongly feel that this is an overreach. The boards voted as such. The reason why this is back here is because there's a method and a way that it has to be back to the town meeting. It's your voice that has to make this decision. And I hope everybody takes the time to listen to the facts. We understand that there's a lot of emotion, but let's make sure that we listen to the facts and we give everybody their time and dignity to be able to make their presentations. And then we'll have a good debate about it. So without further ado, if I could have the town planner, Tony DeFrace.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Tony DeFries, Town Planner, and I'm going to present some information to the town meeting. So I'm sure mostly everyone in the room probably has heard of the MBTA, knows the MBTA. So some of this information may be repetitive, but here we go. So what is Section 3A? Well, the Zoning Act is Mass General Law, Chapter 48. And Section 3A was added that deals with what is known as MBTA zoning. So what the state has required, any community that has rapid transit, commuter rail, bus, ferry, and you have these different towns, the state has required that the town create a district of reasonable size being at least 50 acres. The whole idea of the reasonable size within the 50 acres is to be able to support approximately 15 units per acre. But that density would depend on the Wetlands Protection Act and Title V. Anything that would possibly ever be built within this district must comply with Title V, which is the state sanitary code. As everyone knows, there's no municipal sewer in Hanson, so everyone is on a septic system. The Wetlands Protection Act also has to be adhered to. So this district has to be located within half a mile of the commuter rail station, which everyone knows is on Main Street. Now, one of the things that it does not require is that it have affordable housing. We have made provisions for that within the bylaw, but it's still not a requirement. Next slide, please. So this is going to be an overlay district. And in a few other slides, we're going to get to the zoning map, and you'll see that Hanson already has what's known as a flexible overlay district. But this is an overlay district, and what happens is just what it means. When we look at the zoning map in a later slide, you have what is a baseline district. It could be residence A, residence B, business, commercial, industrial. And this district, as an overlay district, would in essence sit on top of it. Anyone that wants to do anything within that overlay district either has a choice of applying the base district requirements or the overlay district requirements. The overlay district requirements has a bylaw, just like any other district within town. Frontage requirements, area requirements, parking requirements, building height requirements. That was all written by the town. Planning board with assistance from council. That is all controlled by us. So there's some numbers that are flowing out there. The 750 units. Where did that number come from? So the state decided to pick a number. Hanson via commuter rail had to have 15% of their housing stock. The state looked at the housing stock for 2020, and at the time it was 3,960 units. 15% of that is 594. So the state determined that whichever number is higher is what your minimum is. The town is not required within the law. We're not required to build the house. We're not required to build any infrastructure to go along with the house. The private sector will drive anything that might happen within this district. We do not have to do anything. We just have to create the zone. We have to create the bylaw that goes with the zone. We control what goes on with it. Next slide. So what is as of right? So this means that if someone within that district or someone who comes in within that district wants to propose some type of multifamily housing. They would. Yes, ma'am. A little closer. Okay, is that better? Sorry about that. Sometimes I speak a little too loud and it'll. So anyway, so what is as of right? As of right means that a proposed project would go to the building department and would request a building permit. But that does not mean that they would immediately get it. They would be subject to site plan review by the planning board. The planning board will review the project, make sure that it meets all the requirements. Site plan review can impose conditions. We would not be able to deny it, but we would be able to propose conditions and have neighbors involved to see what the project is and voice their concerns. So the conditions could be related to parking, the style of the building, the number of parking spaces, screening, etc. Next slide, please. So here is our current zoning map, and you'll see all the lovely colors. So you'll notice that there's different colors, and each color represents a district. So if you look in the bottom left, you'll see districts. We have agricultural, residence A, residence AA, residence B, business, commercial, industrial. You'll also notice in the bottom left, there's a hatched area that runs along what is Main Street. That is what's known as our flexible overlay zone, which was created some years ago by the residents of Hanson. And within that zone, as it sits on top of those other zones, the regulations for that flex overlay zone can be applied, or the underlying district's regulations could be applied. It depends on what the developer or someone who actually lives in the zone wants to do. So what will happen is that hatched area is what will happen with this MBTA overlay district. Next slide, please. So this map designates where the overlay district would be. It's between Phillips and High Street and just off of Main Street. The line here that you see running from the left to the right represents the railroad track. And you'll see, it may be a little tough to see, but the station is at lot 24G. So this falls within half a mile of the train station. It has over 50 acres. Next slide, please. Okay, so this might be a little tough to see, but if you look in this about the center of the page, you'll see that there's a T, which represents the train station. And you'll see a line, red line that's in a circle. That represents half a mile from the train station. To the south of Main Street, you have the Great Cedar Swamp. To the left of the train station, you have a lot of land that's wet and within conservation control, along also within industrial zone. Just to the north of the train station, you have another section which doesn't necessarily fit the criteria. So when we looked at this zone, we felt that the best place for it to meet all the criteria is within that area that you saw in the previous map. Next slide, please. So within that zone, again, you'll see that red circle, and you'll see a lot of these symbols that look like little plant symbols. Those represent wetlands that are shown up on the GIS. And again, any project within that district has to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act, has to meet the requirements of Title V. So you can see that there's a lot of areas, of resource areas or wetlands within this zone. Next slide, please. So what are they looking for? They're looking for what was known as missing middle housing. So you see the far left, you have detached single families, and all the way to the right, you talk about big time apartment buildings. They're looking for something in the middle, being duplexes or fourplexes. They call it courtyard buildings, cottage court, townhouse, multiplex, triple deckers. And if you grew up in a city, as I did, you might have grown up in a triple decker. And I know someone in the audience who might say, yeah, you didn't grow up in a city, because they know where I grew up. But I grew up in a triple decker. In a lot of neighborhoods, in around the Boston area that it's triple deckers. So this is the type of housing that they would like to see. Next slide, please. So what's the important? So the 3A compliance, what is, they do not require that the housing be built. It does not compel a community to pay for new infrastructure. And it cannot and does not supersede the Wetlands Protection Act or Title V. Next slide, please. Okay, so there was some grants that I'll let council discuss the ramifications regarding those. Next slide, please. So that's pretty much the end of the presentation. Thank you.
If folks have questions about the zone itself, how it was picked, what the process was, or anything of that sort, I think we could entertain questions, but we've got legal counsel here to talk about the state of the union and where we're at legally, which is why we're back before town meeting. This is our town counsel, Jay Talon.
Hi, just wanted to get people up to speed on all of the legal matters that have transpired since you were last here. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about one of the last slides that Tony presented, which is with respect to the grants. Under the statute, there are 13 grants that we are absolutely disqualified from obtaining. However, that is not the only list of grants that will elude us if we don't adopt this. What the state has said is that in addition to these grants, any discretionary grant, not an automatic grant, but any grant where they could say yes or no are in jeopardy as well. For example, if you are applying for a grant that's not on this list, the paperwork to apply for that grant will have a checkbox. And it will say, have you adopted 3A zoning? And if you haven't, you are not going to score well enough to get that grant. This is straight from the Commonwealth. This is what they've said. Some of those grants may be small, but our concern is that some of those grants may also be very large. For example, the town may become eligible at some point or another for a possible MSBA grant, which is a grant where we get large-scale reimbursements from the Commonwealth to help us build schools or repair schools. That is a discretionary grant. It is very competitive. Other towns seek them as well. We are understanding from the Commonwealth that 3A compliance will factor into that. Those grants are in the tens of millions of dollars. So in addition to these grants, which are all significant, any other grant that will have that box to check will likely elude us if we don't pass this. I wanted to give a summary of where we are now with respect to the various bits of litigation, some of which we've been involved in. When you last considered this, the Milton case was not decided yet. We were waiting for the Supreme Judicial Court to decide that case. The Supreme Judicial Court went a little further than we thought they might go. We thought that it was likely that they would rule that this statute was constitutional, and they did rule that, but they went further and they said it's mandatory. So in addition to the fact that we lose our grants through the carrot and stick approach, they are saying we are under an affirmative duty to pass zoning. What does that mean from a legal perspective? What that means is if we don't do it, they will seek a remedy to replace our inability to pass this zoning and likely try and pass it themselves. What they have sought in other communities and what they are teeing up in the few communities that aren't even interested in pursuing a zoning bylaw is that they will seek to have a special master appointed who works from the state, who will draft a bylaw as they see fit. So as you saw from Tony's presentation, the town has carefully chosen an area that will likely have little or modest development in it because of the various contours of it and because of those who currently own it. The state may choose a very different area that is more prime for development. The state is also very likely to have a very thin, if any, site plan review for the bylaw that they would write if we don't pass it. What does that mean? That means that if we don't pass a bylaw that has robust site plan review where we can shape a project through conditions so that it fits better within our community, that a pure by right bylaw that the state drafts may give us little, if any, power to do that at all, and we would have very little control to impose conditions. Those are concerns that we have as council if the state is writing those rules. Now, we may be able to fight that a little bit, but the courts have clearly expressed no interest in the municipal position in this, to my chagrin, as someone who represents a lot of towns. After the Milton case came out, a number of towns sought, 3 towns in fact, sought a determination from the auditor that this was an unfunded mandate. Cities and towns often seek that kind of declaration if and when they feel a new statute is going to cost them money. The auditor, to our pleasant surprise, said it was an unfunded mandate. But the way that works is if the auditor makes that determination, towns then have to sue the state to either get the money that would fund the gap or to get a declaration from the courts that they don't have to comply. In other words, state, if you're not going to fund it, then you have to let us skate by without adopting such a bylaw. So those 3 towns sued to get relief. The town of Hanson and several other communities, some of whom we represented as well, sued as well to have this declared an unfunded mandate so we could get out from under the requirement. The courts rejected that with the same amount of vehemence and language that the Supreme Judicial Court had in the Milton case, saying that all of the concerns around the unfunded nature of this statute were purely speculative. A couple of towns are appealing that, some on different grounds, and the court, that same court, is likely to hear it. I am not predicting strong results on that. We are representing one of those towns. We are not without some defenses in our appeal, but it is a long road, and it is not likely that we are going to get full relief if we get any relief. This is me just being candid. As counsel, it is a difficult task to overcome the momentum that the state has in the courts here. That is the status of this. If in fact we do not adopt zoning today, the state has told us that by the end of the year, they're going to sue us. That means that they will try to get zoning passed on their own terms rather than our terms. We have some defenses to that, but again, we see where the courts are on this, and we are concerned that we may not have the result that we like from that. We can fight and fight. It is extremely expensive to do that. That is outside of our normal legal budget here in the town, and it would be on the magnitude of several $100,000s of dollars. At least the next article considers that, and we could get into that at that time. But it is not inexpensive to wage these battles with the state. So that's, I know it's a gloomy picture, but that is the status of the legal proceedings to date under this statute.
Just to wrap it up, I guess we haven't progressed at all in this particular presentation, but if you don't mind going to the last 3 slides, please. One of the things that we've been hearing is, who cares? We don't need those grants. It's chump change. It is not chump change. In the last 5 years, we've gotten over $5 million worth of grants that we will no longer be eligible for. If you picked up one of the handouts, it should be that, yep, right there. then you'll see this is just an example of the depth and breadth of the types of grants that we've gotten. Seniors, first responders, police vests, roads. I mean, the list goes on and on. And back in August, we found out a new little wrinkle. So not only are we not going to be eligible for the grants, as town council just alluded to, we also won't be eligible for funding rounds. And you say, again, so what? What do I care about that? So funding rounds, for instance, in the most recent budget that was passed, there's supplemental money. So they balance the budget as best they can. And then they say, okay, we've got some extra money. How will we allocate this? One of the things that they do is they give us extra supplemental Chapter 90 money, which is money we use and have relied upon on a steady basis whenever we get it to work on our roads. We lost out on $170,000 of that money. And if you don't mind flipping to the next, and hopefully you grabbed the handout. But just yesterday, we were informed of 6 other grants that we have applied for. So now we have not been in compliance just since July 14th. We have lost $1,109,000 worth of grants. These are grants that our town planner and our town administrator are very aggressive about getting for us. And you might not have been aware of it, but it's stuff that we have used the grant money to try to keep the budget as tight as we possibly can. And still be able to move the needle forward on doing some projects in town, like the senior center. That addition to the senior center was done with a grant. This is real money. It's not hypothetical play money. We're not talking monopoly money. This is real money that impacts our budget. And as you know, we're all living in the same town. We've got a strained budget. So if we don't pass this MBTA Community Act, which is a zone, no requirement for us to build anything, no requirement for us to put infrastructure in. If we don't pass this, we're going to be paying legal fees to the tune of several $100,000 worth of fees. And we're going to be out money that we've been relying upon, millions of dollars of money. So far, it's 1,100,000. It's going to be growing because, as town council alluded to, we will not get any grants if we're not compliant. So I think Mr. Campbell opened up by saying, look, you're not going to find anybody here doing nip-ups and doing, taking the pom-poms out and saying, hey, we're thrilled about this. But really where we're at, as a town, in terms of the select board, is we're saying, look, we asked for money at the May town meeting to defend ourselves. We did not get that. We sent a letter of support to Representative Sweezy, who I have to say has been a great partner on this. He presented his legislation. It's gone nowhere. It probably won't. We had 2 grants that actually were teeter-tottering on being pulled back, and Sweezy went to bat for us and was able to say to the state, come on, they're thinking about maybe taking it back, and, technically they've got interim compliance. So he and Miss Green were able to recapture $250,000 worth of grants that were going to walk out the door. So this is real money. It's a big decision. And I understand people's hesitancy. Very, very seldom have you ever seen, if ever, I don't think ever, at least since I've been on the board, the select board recommend to town meeting that they vote yes. And the reason is because the deck is stacked against us. So with that, I think we're good to bring the screen up. Thanks, Jason.
Can I have the screen down, please? Lisa Grabowski at 72 Phillip Street. I need that.
Are you taking questions, Mr. Keeley?
I need the screen down. Yes. I need the screen down, please.
Mr. Keeley, one thing I did want that we've gotten a question about, because there's been a narrative out there. I was hoping that town council could address the legality of us putting this back on the town meeting warrant.
town council.
Right, sorry. Yeah, there's one additional. We have heard that some folks are concerned that because it's been less than 2 years that we can't put this bylaw back on. There is a statute that says that zoning bylaws that fail at town meeting cannot be put back on within 2 years. However, there's an except provision in that statute that says you can bring it back within 2 years if the planning board recommends that it goes forward. The planning board did hold a hearing. They expressed reservations, as you heard previously, about the bylaw, but they did recommend that it go back here for you to make the decision. So that's all happened, and we are now allowed to consider it within the 2 years.
Thank you. And Mr. Mara, there's just one other point that I wanted to make. If you are against this, this law, it's already a law right now, and we're not in compliance. That's where we're at. There was a ballot initiative, there's a ballot initiative going around to try to repeal it at the state level. This is a state law that's already been passed. So saying no tonight doesn't change whether that law is still in effect or not. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. State your name and residence.
Lisa Grabowski at 72 Phillips Street. Can you please go back to the picture with the red circle, please? Now, as I understand it, it's supposed to be a mile or half a mile from the train station, right?
Yes.
Now, is that as the bird flies? As the crow flies, as they say? Because that circle is not.
Mr. DeFrias?
Because the train station is over on the left, and that circle goes way over on the right, and it should go behind Dunkin' Donuts. It should go almost up up the whole part of Main Street.
Yes, if you take the train station and you go with half a mile all around.
That's not correct. That is not correct. That circle is oblong. It's not a circle. It is in this train station is not in the center. I live on Phillip Street. I know this. Now, I don't want to see Hanson lose anything. I'm not against this. But I haven't been to a meeting before because I've always worked nights. This is my first year. And I've got things to say. If you just give me a minute or two. Thank you. Now, is the land behind my house on Phillip Street, is that eminent domain, or did Fiera sell it to the town? Or has it even been discussed yet?
The owners of all the land within the district is privately owned.
I know that. It's owned by Fiera.
No one has made any negotiations with anyone. If anything, the folks that own that property came to the planning board meeting and said they had no interest whatsoever in doing anything on this property.
Selling it. Not doing anything with it, selling it. They've owned it for a very long time. I've been on 72 Phillip Street for 32 years. I know Michael. I've talked to Michael on certain other situations. And as far as I knew from his father and from the kids, they were never going to sell that piece of property.
And that's what they said at the planning board meeting.
Okay. You said do something with it. They're not going to sell it.
Correct.
So is this proposal right here, is this eminent domain?
No,
So you're hoping to buy the land from Fiera?
we're not buying anything. I'll let council address that.
As was noted previously, this is more or less a paper exercise.
Okay.
We are putting zoning out there. The town is not buying property. The town is not developing property.
Okay.
Our job and our only job and the only requirement under the statute is that we put a zoning bylaw on the books. We are not, as a town, required to, and we have no interest in taking property, developing property, making it easier to develop the property by installing sewer or water
I understand
or anything.
that. I understand that.
So that's all that this is. The town, the town is the only authority that could do eminent domain here unless the state wants to take it by eminent domain, and they don't have the authority or the initiative to do it under this particular statute.
Okay. So with that being said, and I've heard that before, why is the circle not have the train station at the center? And why is the rest of the land behind Dunkin' Donuts, behind the gas company, farther up Main Street, out into the woods. That all land is within the circle, or it should be within the circle.
It is within a half a mile. That's using the train as the center. That was,
On one side.
it's within the center and it's a half a mile from that.
That's the proposed, that's, no,
Yeah.
that's, oh, the T. All right, I see it. I'm sorry. Okay.
The T is the center.
That's much better. I can now see that. All right. So why is that the only property off of Phillip Street that is even conducive? Why isn't there multiple different?
That is a combination of 11 pieces. And as I said before, if you look to the south, you have the Great Cedar Swamp. To the left of it, you have an area that's within the control of the Conservation Commission, which is all conservation land. And you have industry in that section.
So
Within the half a mile, the best spot to fit all this, to meet the requirements, was where you see it on.
And that's not your land, though. How can you do that if it's not your land?
It's a overlay zone. If you go to the back to the zoning map, I think it's the previous one. Go back to the zoning map, please. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. Every one of those colors is a zone. And you have residents, you have different zones. Residence A, B, business. Those are all zones that were created by the citizens of Hanson. There's no one taking anything. All those zones, anyone that lives in that zone, you can do what you're allowed to do within each zone. So if you're in a residence A zone, you can build a single family home. If you're in a residence, if you're in the commercial industrial, you have to follow the regulations for commercial industrial use. If you're in a residence zone, you have to follow regulations for the residence.
Okay.
Business, the flex overlay zone, same thing. Every one of those zones, if you go into the zoning bylaw, you'll see the section, and you'll see within that section, there's frontage requirement, area requirements, setback requirements. This overlay district will do the exact same thing. If you go to the flex overlay zone that we currently have, you'll see exact same thing, setback requirements, frontage requirements. This overlay district will have the same type of regulations that we create.
And there's no other place within that besides between Phillip Street and High Street.
Based on everything we looked at, we felt that that was the best place to make this work.
But I don't understand how you can submit that to the state if it's not your land.
Miss, if I could help, Tony, I think I could help with this. So the questions are, why is it not that the center of the pinpoint was the MBTA zone and then a circle? The requirement that the town engineer was put up against by the state, once again, the details in creating this zone were very specific. And that's where the town engineer went with it, to make it so that there wasn't a back and forth with the state multiple times over and over again, of which, if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 back and forths between what the town planner had proposed and what the state would accept. So the question being, why is it not the pinpoint of the T and then a half-mile radius? That wasn't what the requirement was in order to lock in the land within the imaginary zone.
Okay.
It was just that the zone had to be within a half-mile radius
Yes, I
of the T.
understand that. I understand that.
So there's two different jurisdictions here. There's one of the statute that they gave to the town planner. It has to be within a half mile.
I understand that.
And I'm just explaining this. And then the second part is there's other regulation that the town planner had to abide by in order to be able to create the imaginary zone, the imaginary line. And that's the best fit of where he was
Well,
able.
it's not imaginary because it's a half a mile from around the train station.
Correct.
So that's not imaginary. I just want to know why that was the only proposed piece of land. There's other lands out there. There's other things that are not being utilized, especially between West Washington and Phillip Street.
I just want to inform you, it's not the only thing that was submitted. It was submitted quite a few times. It was also submitted as an idea to create a second floor living space at the MBTA in their parking lot. They rejected that. So there were quite a bit of back and forths.
Okay.
Eventually, what you see here is the town planner's best option for the town of Hanson. And I just want to let everybody know, our town planner is a surveyor and engineer. He is well versed in being able to create something of this nature. So that shouldn't be anybody's question as well. This is, lack of a better term, and I used it during the planning board, and apparently I shouldn't have, but I'll do it again here. This is a polished turd. It's the best thing that could have come from anything that could have been produced out of the second floor in Town Hall. That's exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
This is the best option. But again, nobody is proposing building, nobody is
I
proposing
know that. I heard
selling,
that.
nobody is proposing any of that.
I understand
We
that.
will spite off our nose, we'll cut off our nose to spite our faces if we don't approve the zoning. We're very much comparative to the adult entertainment district. I'm not sure if the room knows that we have one.
Yes, we do. It's right.
So we have an
opposite
adult
Mo's.
entertainment district. There hasn't been
It's
anybody
down in
knocking on
Gully.
the door to open up a permit to start a Chippendales, right?
Yep.
But if they did, it's heavily regulated. So it's very much the same as this. So to answer your question, this is the best result from a certified engineer and surveyor that we hired to be able to create the best option that wouldn't just be tossed back at the town.
Now,
One moment, please, if we could have quiet in the hall. And just to answer one of your other questions, the town zones the entire town.
yeah,
We don't have to own the property. It's the very little of the town is actually owned by the town itself.
Right.
It's just zoned
okay.
according to its needs. But
Okay.
yes,
So
if you have
that's why
another
that
question.
particular property was used because it's within a zone.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And if we could, I'd really like to hear from other people as well.
I have
mean,
one last question.
sure.
Now, if this was to go through, would Phillip Street end up being like County Road? Because I've known this property and I've walked that with my kids and my neighbors' kids, and that's all wetlands. We've all watched County Road go for 3 years of building dirt. It went from the ground I'm standing on to probably 8 feet up, 10 feet up.
Tom Monterey, I'll take that. So to sit this evening and talk about all of the what ifs, it is impossible. It is impossible to talk about what would happen if something was built. It's impossible because of the fact of all the factors that are evolved in a project like this. The planning board, the zoning board of appeals, whenever there is a project that comes before either of the boards, whether it's a subdivision or any kind of development, your boards, and I hope this town continues to have strong boards, engage with water, conservation, the police department, the board of health, the fire department, and all of those reports are brought back to the boards to be able to inform the boards to make the proper decisions to move forward. To talk about the difference between land that is wet and wetlands, because there's a huge, significant difference between the two. To talk about that, we might as well factor in the next time we're going to have a Noah's Ark storm. It's impossible to talk about the what ifs. What we
Excuse me,
can
Mr.
talk about are the
Chair.
what we do know.
If I may.
Yes, Tom Fenner.
Anything that's within that zone is the Wetlands Protection Act. They have to meet that Wetlands Protection Act. There's no deviation from it. So, for instance, Hanson has a local bylaw that says no activity within 50 feet of the wetland. That's still in play. Same thing with the Title V, which governs septic systems. Also, as this is a zone, it can be changed at a later date, like any other zone on the map. The only thing is we cannot make the zone non-compliant. But if we wanted to make adjustments to it, we can. We just have to follow the same process as we're following now, which
Okay.
is under the Zoning Act, Section 5, you go through the amendment process, you have public hearings, it comes to town meeting. So we're still in control there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do people still need the screen down, or can we return to normal?
Normal.
Normal? Okay, if you could raise the screen.
Oh, God.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Jackie Foster, 242 McCoy Street. I just have a couple of questions and maybe some clarification. Why are we proposing the 78.74 acres if we only need to give 50? Is that to take into account the wetlands to minimize the building to suit? And then my next question is, if we propose 78 acres, that would be 15 units per acre, correct?
Mr. DeFrias.
Yes. So
That total amount comes to, you figure two people in a family, 2,300.
So no. So the number, so you have a district that's larger, but it takes into account the fact that the roads aren't allowed to be in it. So you take the roads out, you have wetlands. So the minimum that we have, so you have something that's larger than 50 acres, but when you plug it all into their formula, you come up with an area, when you take out wetlands, et cetera, that's going to be greater than 50. So it still meets the requirement. So
But in doing so, because we're offering up 78 acres, are we going to be getting or having built, whoever builds it, 3 families? I mean, that way then they're utilizing, the potential of the 50 acres plus. We gave 78.
So
For the sake of us giving 78 acres, they can allow so many people in there to live, or units that can, or people that can reside in those units.
if I'm understanding you, is the question, is it going to be greater than the 750 because the area is larger?
The area is larger.
No.
Even though we can't
No,
build on all of it.
the floor is 750. That's what they expect. Though they know for a fact that you'll never be able to get to that number because of the restrictions of the land. Each site would be a determination. What's on that site? Can you actually do it? You might have a lot of wetlands. Can't do it. You might have soil conditions that are so poor that you can't put a septic system on it. You might have a site that there's not enough water. So, well, that's out of the question. So it's just a matter of, then that number is not going to go up where, okay, well, you have 78 units, so now you can fit in X above the 750.
Okay, so with the 750 units, you're still going to give 2 people a 1,500. And then my other question was, does the state have to approve a designated area because this had wetlands in it?
Yes, so what happened was in 2024, we had what's known as pre-adoption review, and all it was is you send the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, and I'm going to use HLC for short. You send them what you were proposing, and they take a look at it, and they give you feedback. They were happy with minus a couple of things with what we were proposing.
For this project?
Correct. So that way, if and when, or if it was to get to them, or when it gets to them, they can look at it and say, okay, you know what, you're pretty much there. Dot an I, cross a T, you're good to go. Again, that was just a pre-adoption. Doesn't mean anything other than they took a look at it and said, yeah, okay, we like what we see.
So no matter what, they still we need approval from them?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Stephen Smith, 4 Monroe Street. I just want to say I am very against this bill. I think Maura Healey is overreaching a lot with it. Having said that, I am urging you to vote yes on this. No, it's counterintuitive, but as was stated during all of this, the zone's coming whether we like it or not. We've already lost in court. There are no legitimate legal challenges yet that have really any hope at all, and our council has more or less painted that dim picture. We're getting a zone, and we're probably getting it before the end of this year. The only challenge that we have left, and if you haven't signed it yet, they've been collecting signatures outside, is the ballot, but that's not going to be on the ballot until next November. We're going to get a zone forced upon us by the state, and it's not going to be the polished turd that we've been offered, which is basically the unbuildable. And that area was selected specifically because it has wetlands in it and because it has glacial till, making it difficult to put septics in there. The area is garbage. It's not going to be built on, and the people who own it have said they don't want to build on it. All we're looking to do is just pass that and then kick the can down the road until we can repeal the stupid law next year. If you vote no tonight, all you're effectively doing is you're basically voting for Maura Healey to come in here and do it. She's going to come in here in the next couple of months and she's going to pick that. And she may very well just say the entire length of Main Street is now zoned. Also, all of your regulations are gone and anybody can build anything and you can't stop them. That was one of the things during the presentation that was brought up. We can put this zone in place and put all of these restrictions in there that make it difficult to give us some control over what gets built or hopefully does not get built because we picked an area that's not conducive to building. Or the state can come in and just say, nope, the entire damn circle is now zoned. Everybody can build everything, and Hanson has no control over it at all. We're going to get stuck with that between the end of this year and all the way until through to next November, where we may actually see some real construction occurring. If we vote no, we're going to probably get real construction. If we vote yes, there will be almost no chance of construction, and we can always repeal this zone later once we defeat it at the ballot next year. I cannot stress enough that we have already lost in court. The presentation has made that clear to us. We have no more legal challenges between now and next November, and the state has already said, and they've already started the process of suing the other towns that voted no, and they're all going to get zones. We're going to get a zone. Whether we vote yes or no tonight, there will be a zone before 2025 is over. We can either pick it ourselves and pick a polished turd, or the state can pick the entire length of Main Street, and you'll see a whole lot of condos going up.
Yes, sir.
Pat Taylor, 174 Whitman Street. He said pretty much what I wanted to say. We have two choices. We vote no, we turn over the control of that land or where that zone goes to the state. The state sends in someone who decides to pick a zone. How about High Street? How about the land where the town has 88 acres up on High Street, and they put that in the zone? If we vote yes, that zone already allows for most of what we've talked about to be built anyway. We're just simply putting another name on it. That zone already takes mixed use. Look at what they've done on Main Street. They put in those two buildings that are mixed commercial, residential, bringing in about $120,000 a year in taxes. They can build those now if they decide to take down that hideous thing called the old Cranberry building. They can build in there now. They can go in there, get the proper permits. If we vote yes and accept this, we control all of it. We control the conservation. We control the permitting process. We control the planning. We control the extra legal things that go on that, if they want to put a pipe somewhere where they aren't supposed to, we control that. If we don't, the state controls that. It's a hideous bill. It should never have passed. It covers everything, and it shouldn't cover anything. So please, for the sake of the town and control of all of these issues, vote yes on this and keep the control local. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm Anthony Sacco at 557 High Street. All you're doing is projecting a future slum. You're going to have all these top of Boston, Brockton, and then you think that little $1 million you lost today is probably going to end up 20, 30 million by the time you put them in the schools. That's 700 houses. They're like little chicken coops, but they're going to have 4 people in it. So you're going to have 5,000 more people in a town that we're the smallest town in the South Shore in population and the northern South Shore. And I think we should vote no on it. And one thing I wanted to ask the planning board is that did they go out and check what the other 160 towns, how many buildings they're going to put on that area? And if you notice another thing, have you seen them going to Weston, Dover, any of those places? No, they think they're a little Mickey Mouse town. They'll be able to push you around. Did anybody check if you're going to have 750 houses on the other 160 units, 160 towns?
Mr. Campbell, do you want to respond?
Sure, I can answer that if the town planner needs any technical stuff. So there's 177 towns that are involved, 177 out of 351 communities. If they're not adjacent to an MBTA, they're not part of this act. If they're not inclusive of an MBTA, they're not part of this act. We have been following quite well. We've been following all of the things that have happened in many of the other towns that are also being asked to have this crammed down their backsides. We have been paying attention up until the point where last week I asked council how many are left. There's less than 12. There's less than 12. We have been paying attention. There are some towns that their planners or engineers simply sat down, put a compass on their map and made a circle, and there was already stuff that was inside that circle. It was already there. A great town of example for that would be Mansfield, right along the Route 106 corridor. There are plenty of towns that have already had this. They didn't have to build anything, and it was already inclusive. To your first point, to the speaker's first point for you, Mr. Moderator, I just want to let everybody here in the town know your zoning in this town, our zoning, I'm also one of you, our zoning will always protect this town from overdevelopment. If you can laugh, it will always protect this town from overdevelopment. I grew up in Whitman. I moved from Whitman to Hanson after I got out of the service. I saw Whitman put in municipal sewage, and I saw how the town started to be overdeveloped. We don't have municipal sewage in this town. Your zoning and your water, your zoning itself will protect this town from being overdeveloped. So anybody that's out there trying to say that the town is going to be overdeveloped, that's just not true. But as far as us looking at all the other towns that are around, we have spent yeoman's work. I, as the chair of the planning board, am absolutely tired of finding out that the town planner has to spend part of his hourly days on this. I am tired of it. I cannot give you a fact or a figure to let you know how much the town of Hanson has paid for his salary from something that came from the state. Again, another thing we'll never see come back to us. We will never see that money return. We'll never see that investment. We will see the investment when the town planner is able to do other things that that he's proposing, which are wonderful for this town. But we are tired of this. This is the last time, especially for the fact that we have less than 12. Make no mistake, this meeting is being watched tonight by people at Beacon Hill. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it's being watched by Beacon Hill because we're less than 12. We're the first one that's having a town meeting tonight. There are a few towns after us coming up, and this is going to be a poster board. It absolutely will.
Mr. Sacco, do you have anything else?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I was just wondering if we could have a court case here if, let's say, one of the other towns is only putting in 200 people, 200 houses.
It's not accepted. The state won't accept that type of adjustment. We've tried to make all kinds of accommodations because we know the issues that the town of Hanson has. And we're not allowed, when we submitted that forward, they're looking to paint this with broad strokes. So we're accepting it with broad strokes, but then we're going to do some action afterwards. So right now, as it stands, we have to go by the guidelines that they've demanded. That's what they are, demands, and the town planners presented the best foot forward.
Yes, sir.
Dan McDonough, 27 Carriage Road. I've been following this closely for 2.5 years, and unfortunately, I do not have an answer. But I'd like to kind of give pause. We're, as a town, absolutely unified in our position of that. So I thought, like, what a dismal legacy. You know, the saying Beacon Hill's watching. For 2.5 years, they've been robbing our pocket, right? And I think in Hanson, probably for the last 50 years, this is probably going to be the most significant legislation and passing that we do one way or the other, because Whitman Middle costs $135 million. As we remember, we ripped down McQuon and we put, 5th grade into the middle school, and there's 750 units at, 2-3. So this will immediately, like, if it's built, which, the town of Maynard just put through for a swamp as well, and they've already started construction. So if they do this, we're going to go towards, buying a new school, essentially, is what's going to be there. But I just want to put out there the disappointment, frustration, and then just the ham-fisted way the state has not given us any options but to make a city out of a portion of our town. We've lost in court. There's not a lot of ways there, so I'm kind of, with that, but that's all I have. Very frustrated, and thank you for the town planners, with this rock and hard place that we have now. Thanks.
Mr. Belisi.
Frankly, 604 Brook Street. So I just want to take a moment to recognize the amount of free cash that we started off this meeting with, right? A little close over $3 million. We had the opportunity to spend, without Article 28, over $750,000. This fight is not going to be solved by our budget. It's going to be solved at the ballot box. We have the opportunity right now to really focus and sign the petition for the ballot and bring it to the whole state to make a decision on this, which I would imagine a majority of the state is not in favor of this MBTA station law that's there. But we are going to be bleeding cash after the override that we just had and failed. It's going to come up next year because we're going to lose all these grants that we need for roadways and sidewalks and things like that need to be done anyway for the safety of the citizens of the town. I'm not a fan of this bill. I voted against it last time at town meeting. I'm going to vote for it this time at town meeting, just for the simple fact is if we're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars over the next 2 to 3 years between grants and legal fees fighting something that's already been fought by bigger towns. So what I would suggest people is do, and it sucks to say this, is bite the bullet, take the burden off of our budget and put the burden onto the ballot box and start that process and going through signing that and fighting for this in November of 2026. When we also have a very important Second Amendment bill coming up as well to repeal that horrible law.
I don't think that's true.
It's not.
Thank you. You knew it. Yes, sir.
Steve Druniak, 121 Adams Circle. One thing that I can't determine from the literature presented here is whether or not this Section 3A zoning act requires that this overlay district has to be one single contiguous plot of land. Could it be multiple smaller plots within the half mile district?
That's a great question. Mr. DeFrias.
So the overlay district, they state that they don't want it to be made up of a bunch of small little lots. And it has to be of at least one area that's contiguous of 25 acres. So if you look at those pieces, there's a lot of large tracts of land and it's all heavily wooded. So when we were also looking at that, we figured if someone was to try and come in with a project in this area, at least you could buffer it in the woods. But the idea is that, it's not made up of a whole bunch of small properties. They didn't want that as part of their criteria.
If you could come to the microphone so nobody can hear you.
My thought would be that if they really want a single district or a single contiguous area, that maybe it would be more difficult for them or future development to have multiple smaller plots. I don't know if that strategy would work, but that's just a question that I have.
Yeah, I think the one advantage with the larger plots becomes, the ability, again, all those plots except for one's owned by the town, the rest are all privately owned. So it all depends on, those landowners, if they want it, what they do. I mean, we've heard from the landowners that own a large chunk of that area, they have no interest whatsoever in doing anything with that land other than what it's doing now.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Steve Kaltman, 229 Cross Street. Again, the gentleman before me expressed a lot of the same sentiment. Rock and a hard place. I do see the overwhelming disappointment and the things we're agonizing over here about and the government overreach, which shouldn't be. Again, so I would welcome all your signatures for the ballot initiative. That would be wonderful if you could sign those. And again, for all of our citizens here to get a hold of any one of us, or if you see us out there collecting signatures, make an effort to do that, because this is certainly an overreach. At the moment, I'm torn. I want to say, well, actually, I do have a question. So I was reading in some of this that there's, the purpose of this is to remove barriers to new multifamily housing. Remove the barriers. So it brought to me a thought, well, barriers are there for purposes. They're, at times, they're good to have. And we're hearing that we're not going to lose, we have the control of this overlay zone. We have the control of what's going to happen. We would have to be taking the state's word to believe that. I believe this is step one. And Do we have control, state control over 40B? We don't. The state has control of that. And I know we're hearing that some of the portion of that doesn't have to be 40B. I just think it's absolute nonsense. They're going to do whatever they want with us. I saw an article in the Mass Constitution Amendment, Article 60 and the amendments. They basically can do whatever they want with any town zoning. I think this is just a step. Give us a zone. We'll do what we want with it. Again, it's an opinion, but I can't spend, and I commend you for digging into this as deeply as you have. I have to work for a living, and you all do too, but this has been very challenging. And I see pros and cons about it. Again, back to the question, what is discretionary permits? Discretionary permitting. I was going through a presentation of this, and I heard the term discretionary permits. It seems like someone's at a discretion to give permits. Whose discretion? The town or the state's? What type of permitting?
We'll hear from town council on that.
So a classic discretionary permit under zoning would be what we call a special permit or a variance. But a special permit is where you have the full power to say no with a lot of deference to the board that says no. Well, so we can't require a special permit under this zoning bylaw, but we can require something that has a little discretion. It's called site plan review, as you heard before, where we can't say no, but we can impose conditions that make projects better, that might shrink them a little bit, that might provide more buffer and landscaping, things like that. So the full discretionary permits under zoning, we can't do under this bylaw. However, as Mr. DeFrias said, there are still discretionary permits out there that may apply here under the Wetlands Protection Act and our local wetland bylaw. Those are still applicable. So there is some discretionary permitting still available for this site.
Okay, well, I'll try to grasp that, but thank you. Did have one more point. What can we do? Again, yes, it's a ways off, but the ballot initiative, yes, we can vote for a new governor. Yes, it's a way off. To me, it's a matter of principle. It's extortion is what it is. And I understand your concern. You ought to take care of this town and the funding and try to get the resources we need to make Hanson a better place to live. But it's challenging when you're being threatened. This is basically extortion. We need to do everything we can at the ballot box. That's our right. It's we the people against the state. It seems like everything is a state of agitation where we want to work, we want to come home, we want to live our lives, we want to enjoy, but we're in a constant battle to battle the state, whether it's taking more taxes or whether it's bringing these things like this down on us. But thank you for your time. I would continue the urge to fight, so no.
Thank you. Mr. Young.
Yeah, as far as the discretionary permitting is that he mentioned, you can have it, some discretionary permitting. But the law basically says is you can't have discretionary permitting or adding or demanding any additional changes to the development that's submitted that's going to either increase the cost or delay the development. So what discretionary permitting is he talking about that would be allowed that are not going to increase the cost, because that's what the law says. You can't increase the cost of the development, or you can't add anything that's going to delay it appreciably. That's what the law says.
Mr. Teller.
Bruce, I don't think it says that you can increase the cost. What you can't do is make a project economically unfeasible. So when site plan review happens, where you can't say no, but you load it down with 100, 200 conditions, if there is a challenge to that site plan review, and that would be up to the courts, so it would eventually go to the courts, there's a process to get there, the courts would weigh whether or not the imposition of those conditions of site plan review frustrate the project to the point that it becomes economically unfeasible. That's a standard that exists today under site plan review. So that's nothing new, and towns have remedies there. So for example, we would be allowed under site plan review to do things like, hey, we need you to remove a couple units close to that wetland or close to that other house, and have that discussion with them. Hopefully, and where it works well, site plan review, a developer and a town has more or less a negotiation to make it look better and be better for the site. If there's a disagreement, it would be the burden of the developer to prove their burden, not our burden, to prove that those conditions render the project economically unfeasible or so marginal that it wouldn't make sense for them. That's a difficult level of proof. It is possible, but it doesn't, there's nothing in the law that says we can't impose conditions that might take a little bite out of that development.
Okay, I was just repeating what the law actually, it doesn't go into the generalities that you said, economically unfeasible. It just says it delays the development or adds additional
Yeah,
costs.
there's still a reasonableness standard there.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
They still have to prove it. And I'm not saying that we engage in a process where we implant a whole bunch of poison pills, but we retain a lot of rights to help shape a project through site plan review. And this draft prepared by our planning board and by Mr. DeFrias has a lot of authority for us to reach into a project and help shape it and make it better through the imposition of conditions.
Can you also address the point of the law that says you can't put a cap on the number of people that are allowed to live in any one unit, or you can't put a cap on the number of bedrooms allowed? That would seem to go against Title V and the Wetlands Protection Act.
Well, so the Wetland Protection Act has nothing to do with bedrooms. Title V does, though.
Right.
So this law has nothing to do with Title V. Title V will measure how much flow you do based upon a bedroom count. So that is alive and well.
So Title V would supersede that particular.
Oh,
law.
100%. Title
Okay.
V is alive and well here and has real limitations. And there's no sewer system out in this area. So the Title V would absolutely control.
Okay, thanks.
And hopefully we can wrap, oh, would you like to come to the microphone? No, just state your name.
That water that comes off of that land gets set down, flows down into a holding pond behind businesses on 27. And then we have aqueducts underneath that. They go from there into the Golden Spring building and then into the Tracy Swamp. Now, with that in mind, this project will require a water treatment plant. You won't be able to build that many buildings. And which will affect the watershed, become contaminated. So, Brent is fine, because the state says we want this land designated for that. But then you create a larger problem, because at some point in time, EQB is gonna go in here and say, you can't build anything with this watershed. Either that, or put it in a large municipal water plant. The town gets stuck with a larger burden. So, and as far as something about a school system, that's a good point, because we have collapsing demographic the little kids being born from meal. We're not even maintaining. I don't think schools will ever be an issue. Water certainly will. And Hanson does not have water now. I mean, we have water, we have signs up in March. We not getting any water on the property because we don't have the pump.
Okay, Mr. Weeks has been waiting to speak. Mr. Weeks.
Thank you. I just want to say before we move on to the vote, that this is one of the, yes. Everything that everybody's brought up has been valid. Everything, all of your concerns are true. And I just want to point out that everything that we presented, both as a planning board and as a town, has been unbelievably vetted by a whole host of people that don't want this in this town. None of us do. So every single thought, every single action that we've taken has been to mitigate and limit the amount of impact that this could have on this town. I'm asking for your support in passing this, because if it doesn't pass, we do lose whatever little control we have. We gain absolutely nothing. We lose all of our grant funding, and we will tap out all of our very limited resources in terms of free cash and any other things that we can possibly have. Even more so, again, to reiterate, the state will come in anyways and zone it where they want. It's coming no matter what. I think the battle comes after this. The battle comes at the ballot box. But what we have to do now is be strategic and make sure that the things that we can control, we control. And the things that we want to fight for, we have the funds and the resources to be able to fight that fight. As of right now, the best option we have in front of us, and none of us like it, not a single person up here. I will speak for myself, but we've also all gone on record, and we'll go on record again, because I do believe in what Mr. Campbell said, that the state is watching. None of us agree with this. None of us want this in this town. This is state overreach. It is completely inappropriate. However, it is in our face right now. This is the best course of action for us right now with the information that we have. And we can figure out how we're going to tackle this as a state body tomorrow. But for right now, we really want to make sure that the limited resources that folks have, people don't have money. People are struggling with paying their bills. They are struggling with being able to even afford to live right now. So by voting no on this, we are guaranteeing that whatever little money we have left as a town and as a community to support each other, whether it be the veterans or the folks at the senior center or anywhere else, that money will not be here, let alone in your household, because it'll all go to lawyers to fight a battle that we will not win. So I am asking you to please support this with the understanding that we are going to battle this moving forward. So thank you.
All righty. So people are chomping at the bit to vote, and 2 of the 3 people at the microphones have already been heard from. So I would ask you, well, no, I'm going to ask you to be very brief and say something new. So, yes, sir.
I make a motion to move the article.
Okay, very good. Is that your motion?
I was only just going to make one statement to address what the gentleman here said. The whole point of picking that zone is that it is a polished turd, which I love that phrase now. That's why it was picked, because it would be extremely expensive to build there. You would need a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
All
Move
right.
the vote, okay.
Before we move to the vote, Mr. Bouvet, you've been waiting.
I'll be brief. And I am a supporter of this proposal. Let me be on record with that. But on Phillips Street, we already have a 40B development put in place under zoning or permitting, I should say, that was hostile to the town. We vote, let's say this is successfully passed and we vote for this. What protection will we have in this district that another development, another 40B style development won't come in?
Mr. Tallerman.
Thank you.
So it's a good question, and we have 40B is even exists separately, and developers could still choose 40B if they felt this was not appropriate for them. I will tell you this, though, that 40B is a lot more difficult than it seems and takes a little bit longer. Our experience so far in other communities where we had 40B developers lined up, and then we did these kinds of 3A zones in the same area, is that almost invariably the developers we were talking to and working with in those communities have chosen to use this bylaw at substantially lesser density. There's less of a requirement for the affordable units, and it takes a lot less time for them to get through all the red tape. So that's been our experience so far.
So having been thoroughly discussed and debated, I'll now call the question. All those in favor of Article 28 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Article 28 is adopted. Do I have a motion to pass over Article 29? So moved, seconded. Article 29, all those in favor of passing over signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 29 is passed over. I now declare this town meeting adjourned. Sine die.